I know your deeds. See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. I know that you have little strength, yet you have kept my word and have not denied my name. I will make those who are of the synagogue of Satan, who claim to be Jews though they are not, but are liars, I will make them come and fall down at your feet and acknowledge that I have loved you. Since you have kept my command to endure patiently, I will also keep you from the hour of trial that is going to come on the whole world to test the inhabitants of the earth. I am coming soon.
The Israel in the Bible is not the same Israel as today. And I know what you're thinking, and you're already jumping into conclusions, but hear me out. People are over here fighting and debating over a misunderstanding of what Israel actually means. They think that the modern Israel is the same as the Israel God promised in the Bible. It's not. In the Bible, Israel means two things. First, Israel was a person. In Genesis 32, Jacob wrestled with God, literally fought him all night long. And after that, God changed his name to Israel, which means he struggles with God. Second, Israel became a nation. Jacob's 12 sons became the 12 tribes of Israel, God's chosen people. But hear this out, they were not chosen because of their land. They were chosen because of God's promise. The nation of Israel existed under kings like David and Solomon. But guess what? They lost their land. They were exiled because they turned away from God. Fast forward today, Israel was founded in 1948 as a political state. But that's not the same as biblical Israel. It's not ruled by biblical law, not everyone there is a descendant of the 12 tribes, and the land does not define God's people. Faith does. So when people think that defending modern-day Israel is the same as defending God's chosen people, no, you're missing the whole point of Scripture. God's Israel was never about land, but about a relationship with Him.
Khazars once dwelt near the Seir Mountains. And if you know of who dwelt near the Seir Mountains, you can understand the significance of this. Genesis chapter 36 verse 8 says, "So Esau dwelt in Mount Seir." Esau is Edom. You see, the Edomites, who intermingled with many nations and made themselves led by many nations, emerged back as Jewish people in the 10th century. They are the ones who taught the Khazars how to be
the Khazars over there in the land of Israel now. That's Esau, you guys.
You see, the ish suffix indicates an approximate, somewhat similar or near value or quality. It's commonly used to express vagueness or lack of precision, especially when referring to time, numbers, or age. They use ish to let you know that they're not them, but they're kind of like them. What's being explained is that the Edomites, who intermingled with many nations and made themselves led by many nations, they emerged back as Jewish people in the 10th century.
Which are the Khazars today.
That's why they have a look different than all others, because they are interminglers. Both the Khazars and Edomites were both very much interminglers, and it was the Edomite Jews who converted the Khazars to Judaism and mixed with them and attached the spirit of Edom to the Khazars. The Edomites converted the Khazars and made them Jews. And so when we say Edom, we're speaking of a mixture of the children of Edom and the Khazars of the Russia-Ukraine region, evolving under the very loose label of Jewish people. They hijacked the blessings and the birthright of Jacob, which is the main conflict in the world today. That's the main conflict. They have said that they are the chosen people.
I'm not playing to any cameras. They are the so-called Jews because we are the true Jews, the true Hebrews, the true and real Israelites whose birthright has been stolen by them. We are the true ones that fulfill Bible prophecy and Scripture.
Isn't it a fact that you know, by throwing out those terms, you're guaranteed press coverage?
I'm not throwing out terms. I'm fighting age-old enemies, and I'm planting seeds in the minds and hearts of the youth and the masses of my people that we will not make the same mistakes again.
Today, it is prohibited, and you can Google this, to do a DNA test in Israel. Totally forbidden. Wrong. It's illegal. It's a crime. You'll be jailed if you do a DNA test in Israel. Why? Because they know the truth will come out. You come from Poland, you come from Ukraine, you came from Europe, you came from everywhere else. And they were the original Middle Eastern Jews who lived together with the Muslims and the Christians for centuries. For centuries. So what happened to a lot of the Jews?
Most of the Israelis are not actual Semites. They're from fucking Europe. They're Eastern European Ashkenazi Jews. And they did the DNA studies. 80% of the Palestinians are like actual Semites that are linked to that land.
Right.
And like 97% of the Israelis are not. And then you find out that DNA testing is illegal in Israel. Like you have to get a court order to get a DNA test. The owner of 23andMe is Jewish, you know, but they don't allow that there.
The Khazarian Empire converted to Judaism and were known for their brutality. majority of the Jews in Israel are the ancestors of the Khazarian Empire.
Who are the real Jews then? Where are the Jews and what's going on? I mean, we understand that we're Joseph's multicolored coat and we're exiled into the nations, but if Yahweh is gathering the whole house of Israel, all 12 tribes, and the stranger that wants to graft in and join, then where are the tribes and what's going on? So I think it's really important to address this subject because, as I said, 92% of the people that say that they are Jews today are in fact Ashkenazi, sons of Gomer, so thereby are the synagogue of Satan, they who say they are Jews and are not. So who are the real Jews? That's the question that has been posed to me many times over the past months. And there's really two answers to that question. And I'm going to be thorough today because I need to be thorough, because when you speak about this, it's going to upset a lot of people. So we're going to have to take our time in the scripture. So bear with me. Two answers to that question. One, I already addressed in the rotting stick of false restoration and the synagogue of Satan teaching. And that is, who are the true Jews? Well, the Fehalim, which is a term for the so-called Palestinians, the migrant farmers that never left the land of Israel in 70 of the Common Era when the Romans came in. They still were attached to the land. They were called the Fehalim, or what we call today the so-called Palestinians, are in fact the descendants of the poor agricultural Jewish society that stayed in the land, yet they converted to Islam in the 6th and 7th centuries to avoid paying the Islamic jizya tax, because if they had done that, they would have lost their land, and they were attached to the land, so therefore they converted to Islam so that they could stay in the land, working the soil that their forefathers worked. This is recognized in 1918 by the historians David Ben-Gurion, who of course was the future prime minister of Israel back then, and Yitzhak Ben-Zvi, the future president of Israel. Both of them historians recognize this fact. Today, of course, it's buried in your history books. But what about the affluent, regal Jews that weren't connected to the land? Because we've addressed who the poor migrant workers are, the Fehalim. But not everyone in the tribe of Judah was connected to the land. There was a royal, regal class that were merchants that would travel throughout the empire and throughout Judea and throughout the Roman Empire as merchants. These were the regal, affluent Jews that weren't connected to the land, but they were engaged in trade and export. Who are they? And where did these royal nomadic Jews migrate to? That's the question that I want to address today. Because we're going to be looking at and tracking the migration patterns and thus identifying the regal merchant class of the house of Judah, as opposed to who we've already identified, the poor migrant working class, which were the Fehalim, today's Palestinians. The globalists trying to enslave us. But we serve an Elohim, and the first commandment is, I am Yahweh your Elohim, who delivered you from slavery. That's the key. This whole political system right now is all about slavery. The globalists are slavers. And we, as Israel, have got to understand who our Elohim is. He is the one who delivers his people from slavery. And today you are seeing more slavery by the politicians in this land, and it is truly, truly troubling. And I need to speak out on it, because Yahweh is calling Israel back. He is calling his people back. But you've got to understand that slavery is what keeps you in Egypt. But when you can expose that, you can finally be set free and serve Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel.
These people honestly believe that they are the descendants of gods, that they are the chosen, that they are God's special people, that we are delusional, and that the true creator is this wisdom principle that they think of as Lucifer, that wisdom principle gave us ancient mystery school teachings, and that the enemy, which they call Adonai, the adversary, which we would call the Christian God, came to try to defeat them. Then they even take it a step further, and they look at texts like the Bible, and they say that where it says in the end times that God will take the money from the wicked and restore it to the just, that we as a planet are the wicked and they are the just. So this is how they justify their financial corruption. They don't believe that we deserve the money. In fact, they believe that if they did not dominate us and if they did not control us and play all these games, that we left to our own devices would destroy our planet. So in some twisted rationale, they believe they are saving the earth. They believe humans are bad for the environment. We cause pollution, so they have to reduce population. Then they seed that into movies like The Matrix, where Agent Smith says that that humans are like a virus on the planet. This is one of a variety of ways in which they will usually embed their teachings into the villain.